Two single-cylinder sports bikes, both under 3.5 lakh rupees. We have the new 2024 Apache RR 310, and of course we have the KTM RC 390. Now, if you don't want to go on track every day and you want to ride this bike for your daily use as well, occasional touring, which one of this is the better package? That's what we intend to find out. The 2024 Apache RR 310 gets significantly enhanced now. More power, more torque, bigger airbox, bigger throttle body, and a lighter piston. And the RC 390 of course has a significant power and torque advantage. But if you want to ride it every day, you want to commute on it, you want to tour on it occasionally, and if needed, you want to do an occasional track day also, which one, considering all these factors, should be your pick? That's what we intend to find out in this comparison. So let's get rolling. But before that, please do consider liking the Car and Bike channel, and if you like this comparison, please do consider sharing this with anyone who would be interested in either of these two motorcycles. Both bikes look sharp, sporty and ready to sprint, and they both look familiar until you look closer at the new RR 310. The Apache RR 310 now gets this new bomber grey color option and winglets, just like a proper MotoGP race bike. TVS says the winglets are not just for looks and are claimed to offer 3 kilograms downforce at 150 kilometers per hour. Not really something useful in the street and more of a novelty than a practical addition. But there's no discounting the fact that the RR 310 now looks more Italian than it ever did, and the winglets certainly add to that sporty race bike appeal. The KTM, on the other hand, has a chiseled, sharp and sporty stance that has its own fan following. For me though, the KTM's faces refuse to start warming up, even though it looks sportier. On the other hand, the TVS does look well proportioned and now has some premium touches, which are not just for show. The gold anodized upside down forks are fully adjustable as long as you opt for the optional dynamic kit, but more on that later. The RR 310 now gets new livery and now also gets a clear clutch cover. Very European, isn't it? It's not easy to judge one over the other in the looks department. After all, it's a matter of personal preference as well. So that's how both bikes look. You let us know in the comments which one do you prefer, the TVS Apache RR 310 or the KTM RC 390, and why do you prefer one over the other? Let us know in the comments. Keep that conversation going. Now, in terms of ergonomics, the KTM has got a taller seat height, so it is the taller bike and you sit slightly hunkered down, so you've got a more committed riding position like that, and it's sportier riding position, but we'll let you know all about it. How does it feel to ride every day? And that's the riding position of the KTM. And weight wise, this is about 172 kgs curb weight, and the TVS Apache RR 310 is actually 2 kilos heavier than the KTM. It's 174 kgs, and seat height is also lower than the KTM. It's more accessible, and the handlebar is not so committed. The riding position is not so committed, so it makes for a more relaxed position. And on the track it's a different thing, on the road it's a different thing. But which one do you prefer? Which riding position do you prefer? Do let us know that as well in the comments. The Apache RR 310 has long been playing second fiddle to the RC 390, at least in the performance department. With a slightly smaller engine, with less power and less torque, the RR 310 could be considered comparatively docile. But now, with some significant changes, the RR 310 certainly has become more enduring, with a slight bump in power and torque. More importantly, a bigger airbox and larger throttle body has made the RR 310 feel and sound throatier and more eager than ever before. For a single-cylinder sports bike, the RC390 on the other hand has enough juice to keep you entertained, even if you have more exposure and experience with performance-oriented motorcycles. Now, in terms of performance, there is no taking away the KTM RC390's displacement and horsepower advantage. It has more power, more torque, and definitely got much more performance than the Apache RR 310. And if you're riding sportily, if you are doing track days, this one will not disappoint you. In fact, at that price point, this is a lot of bike for that kind of money you are paying. It is a bike that you will need some time to outgrow. It's got that performance which will keep you entertained for several years in a row. So
it's got the spunk, it's got that performance which is quite enjoyable indeed. But on the flip side, if you're riding daily more or less in the city or commuting, the RC's peaky power delivery is not quite likable in the city. And that's where it falters, because you need to work the gearbox to be in the power band all the time. And if you're riding in traffic, riding in the city, commuting through traffic, and you have to work the gears a lot to be in the power band, and that's enjoyable, yes, but it needs a little bit of work because you have to work the gearbox, you have to be in the power band, you have to be engaged with the motorcycle, so to speak, and get that entertainment from the motorcycle. But yes, overall, as a performance motorcycle, the RC390 still holds its own.
The RR310, on the other hand, offers more sensible and practical everyday performance. Sure, it is track ready and you can very easily do the occasional track outing. But on the street, it's got stronger low and mid-range torque, which makes it easier to ride and operate in traffic. You don't need to change gears or downshift too often, and the wide torque band makes it quite enjoyable with more power just a downshift away. Even when a twisty road comes up, the Apache RR310 offers balanced and predictable dynamics around corners, which makes you feel confident. The engine of the updated RR310 feels significantly refined than before, but there's still some buzz at higher revs, but nothing alarming or disturbing enough to put you off.
Now the RC390 may have the bigger engine, it's got more power, more torque, it's the more performance-oriented motorcycle, but that doesn't mean the RR310 is lacking in any sense. In fact, with the updates now with more power, more torque, bigger airbox, this one has become much more likable than before. If you're riding daily, if you're riding in the city, if you want to commute on it a lot, this one is the more practical choice because the throttle response is very smooth, very linear. 6th gear, in fact, you can pull cleanly from as low as 45 kilometers per hour. So you don't need to work the gears too much. The torque is linear, so it's a nice smooth torque curve. So in terms of everyday usability, the RR310 is a much more likable bike, particularly if you're stuck in traffic, you want to go from a stoplight to a stoplight. It's the RR310 which I find easier to handle and more relaxed really in that sense. And of course, straight line performance, it is the slower bike than the RC390. But if you are primarily going to be riding in the city, this one is the better practical choice. But pure numbers, pure acceleration, pure torque, pure power, it is the RC390 which takes the cake. But with those updates, this one definitely is not to be ignored. And if you want the extra kit, you get adjustable suspension, you get tire pressure monitoring system, you get cornering ABS, cornering traction control, all those 6-axis IMU, all those features you don't get in the RC390, all those lean sensitive traction control and ABS. So in a nutshell, if you want just pure adrenaline pumping performance, is the RC390, but if you want a more practical choice, I think the RR310 makes a very strong case.
In fact, the India spec KTM RC390 doesn't get adjustable suspension yet, but you do get switchable ABS with cornering function as well as traction control along with a standard up and down quick shifter with a slipper clutch. And on the move, everything works seamlessly on the RC390. Available in just one variant, the RC390 is priced at 3,21,173 rupees ex-showroom. The Apache RR310 is available in 3 variants in different colors, with or without a quick shifter. The vertical 5-inch TFT console has Bluetooth connectivity with turn-by-turn navigation, and the RR310 gets 4 ride modes: Urban, Rain, Sport and Track. The features list becomes even longer, but only when you consider the add-on built-to-order kits, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. But these kits come with added prices as well. The Dynamic kit at 18,000 rupees extra will get you fully adjustable suspension, a brass coated chain and a tire pressure monitoring system. And with the Dynamic Pro kit slapped on, at 16,000 rupees more, you will get an even more comprehensive electronic suite with a 6-axis IMU. The Dynamic Pro kit opens up what TVS calls the Race-Tuned Dynamic Stability Control, or RTDSC, with cornering ABS, cornering traction control, cornering cruise control, wheelie control, slope-dependent control, and even rear lift-off control. In the Bomber Grey color option, the RR10 with both kits will actually cost you more than the RC390, and with the Race Replica color option, even more. But the good thing is, if you don't want the optional equipment, you can still get the base RR310 in red without the quick shifter for just 2,75,000 rupees ex-showroom.
There's no easy way to explain this, which one is the better bike or which one should you choose really. Because on one hand, the RC390 offers a performance advantage which just cannot be ignored. It offers super bang for your buck at that price point and that performance which you just can't ignore. If you're looking for pure performance, the RC390 is the bike for you. But if you're riding daily within the city, in commuting through traffic, the RR310 makes for a more practical choice. It's smoother, it's got more tractability, so that bike is a more practical choice than the RC390. In fact, every ride on the RC390, no matter where you're riding, you would want to keep the engine on the boil and you would want to chase those figures, and the cops will be chasing you. You won't even realize how fast you're going, because this bike, you will want to ride it always on the boil. This one, you can ride it fast, you can ride it relaxed. So this one is a more versatile choice in that sense. Now, the RC390 also gets a lot of features. It gets cornering ABS. It does get traction control and the ABS can be switched off. But if you consider the RR310 with all those kits, the Dynamic Kit and the Dynamic Pro Kit with dynamic stability control, lean sensitive traction control, lean sensitive ABS, wheelie control and all that, this one is a more feature packed motorcycle, and on top of that it gets adjustable suspension as well. But with all that kit, this one actually becomes more expensive than the KTM RC390. So if you want all that kit, by all means pay more and go for the RR310. And of course, if you want a more practical choice, but if you want pure performance and thrill, the RC390 should be the bike for you. But if you don't want all that added features, you just want the plain bike in red, this one has got a 45,000 rupees less sticker price than the RC390. The choice eventually is yours. But if I were to pick one, should I pick practicality? Should I pick performance? That depends on what kind of riding I do. If I want to go to the track very often, this one is a no-brainer. But if I'm going to be spending more time on the streets in traffic, I will pick the RR310.